Hello, everyone, and inside today's Locked On Canadiens, it's time to trust the process with Juraj Slafkovsky. Mantha rumors are abound. Habs have to trade a goalie at some point, and we have a game preview for the end of the week. All that and more inside today's show.
You are Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 941 of Locked On Canadiens. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On, and make every moment more right now because new customers can get $5. When you bet $5, you will get $200 back in bonus bets guaranteed. Just visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. I am your host. I am Scott Matla. I am flying solo today. My co-host is off for the night. And I'm here to welcome you to Locked On Canadiens. We are your daily Montreal Canadiens podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where you get your team every single day of the week, wherever you get your daily podcast, whether that be Google, Apple, Spotify, or if you are watching on video on YouTube, thank you so much for subscribing. We are free and available 5 days a week during the season, and sometimes a few special episodes sprinkled in here or there. And I, unless you count, Pikachu back over my shoulder here, we've got a busy show planned for you today here in that I had a show planned, trade rumors kind of started a little bit, and I'm going to keep to what I've got going right now for the show, and that there's a lot of panic about Juraj Slafkovsky, and that is not new. This has been going on since the minute it was suggested that he would be picked first overall last year, 2 years ago, I should say. My apologies, because it is 2020. Anyways, there's been a lot of consternation about that. And people are looking at it and going, he's not putting up points. He's not producing. He should go to the AHL. They're afraid he'll go to the AHL because he won't dominate there either. And I got to say, we are 6 games into this season. The Canadiens are 3-2-1 at this point. Let's see. They beat Chicago, beat Buffalo. No, 2-3. Anyways, doesn't matter. 3-2-1. Anyway, someone will correct me on that. Regardless of that, my point on this whole thing here is that it is too early to be panicking in such a way over Slafkovsky, especially because watching him this season, he's looked so much more engaged, so much more polished together in his overall game this year that every time I see the panicking about it, I'm wondering if I'm watching a different game than other people. And yes, the points are not there. He got the assist in the first game against Toronto on a really nice play to set up, I believe it was Sean Monahan in front of the net or Tanner Pearson in front of the net. And it was Alex Newhook, my apologies on that. It's just the overbearing panic about the entire thing feels so unnecessary at this point right now. Is that I'm seeing him use his physicality better. He's using his reach. He's looking around the ice and finding better options. He's making better plays. He's using the physical gifts that made him the first overall pick more efficiently. And the thing is, and we knew this when he was picked, is that his ceiling was never going to be a very high goal scorer. I think is that he's someone that can be rounded out and play a lot of minutes at both ends of the ice. And he's showing off that he's actually a pretty good quality playmaker over being just a goal-scoring guy. And I think those goals are going to come there because I watch him play games and he's getting into the locations and he's getting the chances off and he's getting scoring chances. He's either, shot gets healed or it gets blocked, hits a crossbar, anything like that. He's getting into the dangerous areas and being a part of the play rather than being a passenger on the play there. And I think that is such a huge adjustment in his game, is that he is not going along for the ride. He is directing traffic on that second line. And I think once Christian Dvorak is back, whether he's the center or Sean Monahan moves up to center that line or something, and Newhook goes back to the opposite wing. We're going to continue to see growth in there. And I'm not worried about him because I'm watching him do things that he wasn't doing last year. The progression is there. And if you are only going to look at counting stats, you're doing yourself a disservice for how you analyze hockey players statistically, in that there's more to his game than he's got this many goals, this many assists, etc. He's doing more and more and more of those little things right. And I think that is an important factor in what is going to get him to that next level. And people are clamoring they should bring up Joshua Waugh and send Slafkovsky to the AHL. We love Joshua Waugh on this podcast. We love Joshua Waugh in this fan base. My question for everybody who is suggesting this is that if you bring up Joshua Waugh and put him in the same situation and the same thing happens and that the opportunities are there, but maybe the points are not, what was the point? I understand why people want to see Joshua Waugh up here, and I do as well. And my biggest thing is you got to let him continue to cook in the AHL a little bit. He had a very good week, extremely good, like should have been player of the week good for the Laval Rocket last week. It is 1 week. It is a several month long season here. Before we go, he's hitting it and just throwing him right into the fire here at a time when the Canadiens have a busy schedule and they're asking a lot of other players. I don't want to rush up someone who looks like they have all the earmarks of being someone great. We've seen players have good weeks, get called up, look lost, and never have it back again. I am not saying that Joshua Waugh would end up in the same bucket where he gets recalled and then he just can't kind of put it together at the NHL level, goes back down, and whether it be confidence or just a timing thing, things are off. That's not what we want to see. It happened a little bit to Caulfield. Admittedly, Dominique Ducharme was his coach, so you can put a big fat asterisk on that as well. I want to see Joshua Waugh up. I do not want to see him up here right now because there's so many things that he's starting to do well. He's finding his chemistry with Sean Farrell and ironically Lucas Condata, who started the season as the fourth line center, and due to injuries, here he is. If you keep those two together, Farrell and Waugh, and you let them continue to grow and build off of each other, because by doing that, you're setting yourself up for not having one guy who is like thriving, but two, because then it's like, oh, Farrell's cooking as well. Maybe we can call him up. We can call up Waugh, depending on what situation you need players for. And at the same time, then you have to send Slafkovsky down, which is always a hard thing to do. I know they did it with Jesperi Kotkaniemi, and he came in and would just lit up the AHL in the handful of games that he played. But I'm wondering about Slafkovsky's confidence on there. He would play top line minutes every single night without a doubt in my mind. I have no doubt he would do that. But at the same time, he's playing second line NHL minutes right now. I don't think he looks out of place. I don't think he looks overwhelmed at that point. So my question is, why are we trying to force him out right now? They're working on a process with that, and that the Canadian special teams, if they were better, there's likely more points across the board for everybody involved here. Suzuki, Caulfield, Newhook, maybe not Kirby Doc, unfortunately, this year, but like Slafkovsky, etc. That he's the kind of guy that it feels like once that dam bursts, it's going to be just a rushing torrent of goals there. And I don't think he's going to be a 40, 50 goal guy. I think 25 to 30 with, 30 or so assists at his peak is not an unreasonable thing to look at here, because I've watched his playmaking this year and his reads are better. He's getting pucks into the areas. He's being more deceptive in his movements and what he is doing in these games here. And I'm not ready to just hit the panic button on Slafkovsky yet. If we go into American Thanksgiving and he's starting to look lost out there and nothing's happening, then you pull the shoe down there. You send him to the Rocket for a little bit, get him sorted out a bit, and you go from there. But for right now, I don't see a reason to hit the shoot on this. I haven't been upset with what I've seen from him. I'm seeing just better habits, better little on ice intricacies that you would expect from a player who was drafted first overall. And right now, it is just the panic's too much. It's too early. Everyone's got to take a breath. That includes myself on a lot of different things. Coming up in our next segment, it's trade rumor season already in Montreal. We're going to get into all the rumors and what I think needs to happen for the Canadiens all coming up next. But first, today's show is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. And right now, you can snap into NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose on your first bet. And there's no better time to join FanDuel, the app that's safe, secure, easy to use. And when you win on your spread bets, your player props, over-unders, anything else, you can cash out instantly. Go buy yourself something nice after you've cashed out on those bonus bets. And right now, if you visit FanDuel.com/lockedon, you're going to get those $200 in bonus bets, win or lose, when you place at least a $5 bet. FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL and us here at Locked On. And as always, I'm here to remind you that if you were going to bet on sports, to please bet responsibly in all situations. We are Locked On Canadiens, your daily Canadiens podcast here. Laura will be back with a very special game recap with our friends from Locked On Blue Jackets tomorrow night. I will be in Orchard Park at the Bills game, unfortunately. I will be keeping a very close eye on the score because I let sports dictate my mood like a healthy adult does. We're already in silly season a little bit in Montreal. One, because it is always silly season in Montreal, because that is what we do as fans. And I am not trying to say that I am any better than this or any worse than this. I have two things in this segment I wanted to touch on. One, because I had to alter the show like as I was hitting the record button, as I was looking at Twitter, which is always super fun and fantastic. But I'm going to stick with my first thought that I had originally put down for this episode. A goalie has got to go in Montreal soon. All three goalies have played now. Caden Primo has played well in a loss. Samuel Montembeault is 1-1 in a game where team didn't give him much help in front, and he was good against Chicago. Great even. And Jake Allen has had two very good back-to-back wins, which is something that we love to see. He beat Buffalo, and then on Saturday, I for the life of me, for whatever reason, cannot remember who they played last Saturday. The Capitals. That's right. Jake Allen had two strong back-to-back starts here. They got to do something because three goalies is not conducive to a healthy situation later on in the season, unless you can find a rotation or a goaltender steps up in a way that they claim that 1A spot over Samuel Montembeault. Someone's got to move out of this group here. And I don't know if they're going to try waivers for Caden Primo, which I think is probably their plan. But if they were going to do that, they would have done it already. Caden Primo would have been on waivers coming out of training camp. He would have gone to the Rocket and split time with Dobish and Strauss-Mann. Or potentially just even Strauss-Mann, depending on how things will go this upcoming week here for the Canadiens and the Rocket. But what kind of triggered this thought in my mind is I was checking out the scores from Frozen Frenzy the other night, and the Oilers lost 7-4. They are getting a league worst save percentage, high danger save percentage from Jack Campbell and Stuart Skinner. That is below .700. That's 700. That is astronomically bad goaltending in close. And this is not to say that Jake Allen or Caden Primo or whomever could immediately fix the goaltending problem, because a lot of it is a defensive problem in Edmonton. And I know that is throwing stones in glass houses as a Canadiens fan here, but I also realize that the possibility is there that a goalie will be moving, and the Oilers, or a team who are meant to be competing for the Stanley Cup this year, they have started, I believe they said 1-6 this season. They have not been good because they cannot stop the puck, and they are now also down Connor McDavid. And my first thought was, if they believe in Caden Primo as the 1B to Samuel Montembeault, which I'm still not totally sold on at this current point, then Jake Allen makes a ton of sense there. The Oilers, however, have zero cap space. They have $500,000 in cap space, and Jake Allen's got a $3 million contract through the end of this season here. Even with salary retention, if they're retaining half and using that last retention spot, the Canadiens cannot make this work without taking a player back on. And the Oilers are currently skating a person short because they cannot recall anybody because they do not have the cap space for it. So it becomes a very difficult juggling game. Is that, are the Oilers going to have to give up somebody off their cap there to make this work? And if you are the Canadiens, how can you make this work? And who do you take on? Do you find somebody from this Oilers defense to help supplement the veterans with David Savard out for 2 months? Based on their defensive stats in Edmonton, no, probably not a good idea because their defense hasn't been very good this year. And it also doesn't make sense to clog up your cap with worse players right now. I still think there's something going to be brewing here. You can't keep 3 goalies for long. Caden Primo has to play to find out, can he be an NHL goaltender? And you can't not play the guys who are winning games right now. Jake Allen's been very good in 2 out of his 3 starts, and even against Toronto, it was rough. Special teams, like we've talked about a lot, kind of let him down a little bit. And maybe it's Samuel Montembeault because his contract is the cheapest one, but he's also been the most consistent out of any of the 3 goaltenders the last couple years. Something's got to give here, and it feels like we are very close to that actually finally occurring, and that's my hope. But the rumors aren't just around goaltending, and they're not even rumors. That's just kind of my brainchild and everything out there. The fourth period reported that the Canadiens and Capitals have been potentially having dialogue surrounding a Yoel Armia for Anthony Mantha trade, to which I say that sounds great. Mantha's contract is done at the end of this season, I believe. Armia has 1 more year, and the Canadiens can add a guy who is an NHL body at this exact moment to their lineup, and then maybe that does get Slafkovsky sent to the AHL, or they carry an extra body. But if they're going to bring Mantha in, they can't carry 3 goalies at that point if they're going to keep an extra forward on this roster right now, or an extra defenseman. My first thought to all of this is there's no way that Washington would actually do this trade. I would be stunned if this is a thing that occurs. And I just honestly, like, I don't believe it's going to happen because I know the Capitals are a team in flux where they want to be better, but they are not quite. They're in that weird flux of they're not good enough to not be close to a playoff spot, but they're not so bad that they're going to bottom out again. And if they can honestly, and maybe Mantha's more cooked than I thought. I may be very wrong because I know he was a scratch in some Washington games. I haven't looked at his stats over the last couple years here, but let me take a look on elite prospects here because I know he's someone Habs fans wanted in his draft year. Oh my God, he was drafted 10 years ago. Sweet Lord. Let's take a look here. Last year with the Capitals, he put up 27 points in 67 games. The year before that, 23 and 37. 8 and 14 with Washington, with 21 and 42, and then 38 and 40. He hasn't lived up to maybe what he was doing in the QMJHL, where he put up a 120-point season, but he's played decently well in the AHL, enough that he's been a regular contributor at the NHL level, but he's played 4 games this year, has no points, and is a -1. Honestly, if this is a thing that they really truly want to do, absolutely sign me up. I would do this trade in a heartbeat. I just cannot imagine that the Capitals are looking to add another year for a veteran who probably doesn't add much to their lineup. And Lord knows that bringing Mantha into Montreal comes with a host of other pressure along with it. Let's you know what? Let's put a poll out on Twitter. Anthony Mantha, Montreal Canadien. Who says no? If the Capitals say are the ones engaging in this because they want to get rid of that contract and save a little bit of money on the cap, and the Canadiens have the cap space to play with, go for it all day long. It's absolutely the kind of thing the Canadiens should do, especially in a rebuilding year. Hell, maybe the Capitals throw a pick in with that too, because they want to get rid of that contract so badly. If they're healthy, scratching them in a season where they're struggling to do much of anything. All for it. Let's go for it. I can't wait to see what becomes of that because I don't think it's going to happen based on the sources and everything with it, but I am I am intrigued and on the lookout for that now, because if that is the thing that happens, I am all for it. Folks, there is one more game. Well, not one more game. There's a game coming up Thursday night. I am here to bring you the game preview between the Columbus Blue Jackets and the Montreal Canadiens. What do the Habs have to do to improve? We'll talk about that coming up next. But folks, today's show is also brought to you by Sleeper, and a new NHL season brings all sorts of possibilities. Cole Caulfield scored 50 goals. The Canadiens have a slim but chance to hoist the Stanley Cup, and you could win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of Locked On NHL Network, because Sleeper is our number one choice for daily fantasy sports and especially daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. You're playing against the Canadiens and you know they're going to take penalties. Pick a power play guy. Someone like Johnny Gaudreau might feast in the upcoming game against the Canadiens. And if the NHL is not your thing, you can bet on the NFL, the NBA, MLB, and college football on Sleeper as well. There's a group chat, team chat functionality. So if you want to connect with other fans and see what they're doing, you can do that as well. All you got to do is pick a couple of the top players in the league. Pick Caulfield to score on the power play. Pick Johnny Gaudreau to score on the power play against the Canadiens. It's all possible on Sleeper. And to win 100 times your bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. So you heard me, Habs fans. You can win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail your picks so you can start winning big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and local availability. We are back at Locked On Canadiens. There is a game Thursday night. The Montreal Canadiens take on the Columbus Blue Jackets, two teams looking to turn around their recent fortunes. And they are trying their damnedest, but they are also really injured a lot. A lot. The Columbus was right up there with the Canadiens last year and just games lost to everything. If there was a good thing going in Columbus, you can be rest assured it probably got injured at some point. A lot like the Canadiens are already starting this season here. Obviously, Columbus, made a splash. They landed Adam Fantilli in the offseason. They have added a lot of top star young talent through the NHL draft going forward. Guys like David Juraj, Denton Mateychuk. You have Johnny Gaudreau there. You have Kent Johnson there. You have a guy like Emil Benstrom. You have Alex Texier, who has come back into it. Zach Werenski is healthy again. Columbus is a team that has every ability to just be super pesky and annoying if you are playing them. They are not going to win every game, and they are prone to, like the Canadiens, having a bit of a meltdown and a dramatic moment here. And that just goes with the rebuilding. Sometimes, you catch it, sometimes you don't, and it's just how it goes. This game's going to be interesting because Columbus has been a weird team for the Canadiens. The Habs either have squeaked out a win or it is a blowout in one direction or the other. It feels like these two teams do not play like a 4-2, 3-1 style game. It is one extreme or the other. The Canadiens last year put up 8 goals against Columbus, I believe, in a blowout game. Raphael Harvey-Pinard had a hat trick where he famously caught one of the hats on his stick, skating along the bench there. So this is a good opportunity to get right if you are the Montreal Canadiens, because their schedule is not going to get any easier after this game here, because they play Columbus tomorrow, the Jets on Saturday, the Golden Knights on Monday, and then they travel further out west, the Coyotes next Thursday, the Blues, the Lightning, etc. It's a good chance to kind of get right before hitting some of the big boys next week. The Jets game will be interesting too, because the Jets are always a game that it is high scoring because neither team really tries defense all that hard here. For the Habs, I'm really curious how the defense responds here. David Savard is out. Justin Barron is playing on the top pairing. They do not have another real veteran besides Mike Matheson. And yes, Gustav Lindstrom counts. Like, he counts, but like, out of veterans you can have, he's the guy that was meant to be a 6th, 7th defenseman for the Laval Rocket this year. And he is out there right now trying his best. and that's on a pairing with Arbor Jack. And there's not exactly guys in the AHL who have a veteran moniker that they could call up and put in this situation. Columbus's offense has the ability to cause a team like the Canadiens fits. Adam Fantilli got his first NHL goal. It was beautiful. Kent Johnson's a dangerous player. Johnny Gaudreau's always dangerous. Patrick Laine, for the Canadiens' sake, is luckily not in the lineup. Unfortunately, it's because of a really dirty hit from Rasmus Andersson, an absolute lethal weapon. And with the Canadiens' inability to stay out of the penalty box, removing a weapon like that from their lineup is probably a huge, huge deal for the Canadiens. It's one less thing to focus on, but they still, in this game, need to stay out of the box. I think this is a good opportunity for someone like Juraj Slafkovsky to kind of shoulder the load a little bit and become a nuisance for some of Columbus's defenders there. Use that frame, use that, I'm going to call it a horse-like skating strike because he's quick when he gets going. Really push those defenses back and make them second guess what they're going to be doing at any point in time. And I absolutely think this is a perfect get-right game for them. I assume Samuel Montembeault will get the start because it went Jake Allen, Montembeault, Allen, Primo. I believe this should be potentially Montembeault's start. If not, Jake Allen going in this one and Montembeault going against the Jets on Saturday. Wouldn't be shocking. It wouldn't be shocked if Montembeault played both of these games and continued the pattern of how they've gone through things. The biggest thing is get the penalty kill right. And by that, I mean, stop taking so many damn penalties all the time. Columbus is a team that can be bent. The goaltending has gotten better, but it's still there to be taken advantage of right now. If you get a power play opportunity, use it. Use your special teams to put the hammer down like teams have done to you this season here. If they can stay out of the box and play with speed and pace and force Columbus into taking penalties, this is a perfect game for the Canadiens to get their heads right going into a game against the Jets, which will be physical, it'll be fast, it'll be nasty, and there will be a lot of goals scored in it one way or the other. I have no doubt of that. It's just a matter of, can you do the basic things right? I don't really want to make a ton of predictions, but I think in this game, you're going to see a goal from Raphael Harvey-Pinard. I think you're going to see Alex Newhook get on the board, and I think Suzuki's finally going to get his first goal of the year here. Unexpected performer in this game. I think you're going to see a really nice game from Jonathan Kovacevic. He's struggled the last few, which is rare for him. I think this will be a bounce back for him. I think he gets on the score sheet a little bit in this one here. I think the Habs will come away with it. I don't think it'll be pretty by any means, but I am putting my eggs in the basket for Canadiens win in there. Laura and Jay from Lockdown Blue Jackets will have everything covered for you after the game tomorrow night. They will have your recap and all the fun that entails. In the meantime, subscribe wherever you get your daily podcast, Google, Apple, Spotify. We are Locked On Canadiens at all of them. We are at LO_Canadiens on Twitter.com, X.com, whatever you're calling it. You can follow Laura at The Active Stick. You can follow myself at Scott Matla. If you have mailbag questions, tweet us, email us at lockedoncanadiens@gmail.com because they might get to some of those tomorrow night. I am signing off, and folks, I will see you all next time.